Welcome to the Chromaniacs, your weekly look inside San Diego FC and MLS. My name's Craig Elston, joined, as always, by my two Chromaniacs, Tony Sanchez and Alex Pena. Tony, what's going on, buddy?
Still riding high from a San Diego soccer team winning a championship. Your 17-time San Diego Soccers still in celebration mode. But we kind of have to come back down to reality. San Diego FC versus LA. San Diego versus LA is always interesting, but this time it might be a little. It'll be like last year potentially. Alex, how are you first of all?
I'm doing great. I'm here with the two guys that probably have more hardware, more championships than most professional San Diego sports teams. So that's amazing, and congrats to Tony and Craig and the rest of the San Diego Soccers for winning another championship for San Diego. So, and I got to watch that game on Monday. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Well, you know, we are not the players. We are merely the storytellers for the San Diego Soccers, and as such, as I said to Tony and to some others, it's kind of the storyteller's blessing and the curse. You get the opportunity to be there. You get the opportunity to be in the room where it happens. And not only that, but to tell the story. The only thing is you do not get to write the story. You have no ability to shape the story. You are forced to tell the story that happens, not the story that you want to happen, but the story that actually happens. And that's the blessing and the curse. And as Tony knows, last year I was in Chihuahua calling the Soccers getting their heads kicked in the knockout game 6-0 after being outscored something like 8-0 in the second half of match 2, and just getting run out on a rail, and for the first time ever losing in the final, and being on that plane flight home and having to be on the air to call all those Chihuahua goals, one after another, after another, after another. So that's just a precursor to say that when the story comes out the way you were hoping it was, the proverbial happy ending, you can't be happier and more lucky, lucky to have the opportunity, and luckier still to have it go the way that we wanted. But that's the Soccers. Yes, all's well. Dear viewer, dear listener, all's well in San Diego soccer. Elsewhere, San Diego Wave FC had won 5 in a row before losing to Portland, but they've got another chance to win at home. The Soccers are champions. I'm sure there's plenty of club teams doing quite well. There's all sorts of good soccer happening in San Diego. And then there's SDFC, the team that we're here to talk about. So let's dig in. Let's go ahead and dig in. Thanks to everybody for being here. This is a test of the diehards. Season 2, episode 14, uncharted territory for San Diego FC. I think that's a fair place to start, guys. Any reason to even discuss the following statement? This is the lowest time in the history of San Diego FC.
Yeah, just based off results. You lose 5 in a row. You haven't won in over a month. Yeah, it's the lowest time for everybody following this team right now, and hopefully, there's 5 games remaining before the World Cup break. You're hoping that you get a couple of wins before that, with given all the factors, injuries, and everything that we're going to discuss, and you just kind of hope that you get some points out of it in the final 5, and then you just hope for a good break, everyone gets healthy, and then on the second half there's 19 more to play, so there's still a bunch of games to go through, to go play. There's still plenty of time to turn this around.
I mean, I put that image up of just like frustration. I think this just encapsulates a lot of the San Diego feeling towards San Diego FC of, you're mentioning the storytellers right now, but we're not the ones playing. And if people are frustrated with this team, I can't imagine what the players themselves are going through. And they're seeing their teammates go down with red cards, go down with injuries in training, and just knowing that what you've been having is the same thing that you were supposed to start right back up in, and you saw the potential of the season with your games early in the season, with beating 5-0 a Montreal team and beating Toluca with 9 men. Like, you saw what the best possible case was, and now you're just seeing the other side of that spectrum on, well, this is the consequence of some of those actions. Like, every action has a reaction, and for the bodies of the players, it's a reaction in terms of breaking down. You've had a couple of players go down due to injury that are crucial to this play style. And I think, once again, I think that all kind of goes back into it. It's the play style that they've been telling you they're going to stick to. They've been sticking to it. It's frustrating people when they're like, why is Duran and the defense keep playing the ball this way? Why don't they just clear it out of there? That's not their style. When they go and divert from their style, whether it's the 90th minute, whether it's the 70th minute, and they're kicking a ball through the middle and the air where they don't normally, and you see Pellegrino just smack a guy in the head and he gets a red card. This is a team that's right now trying to find their bearings and just really coming together and looking at each other, who is available, and saying, we are better than this. And I think that's the thing that will be asked most of from this fan base, is just be patient in these moments, but not just be patient, be understanding that sometimes this is just the way it's going to be. Son necios, son tercos, they're stubborn with the play style, with how they move the ball, with how they defend. But hopefully, with an LAFC coming in, it's a chance to step up to that competition and really start to reverse some of these narratives that we've been hearing for the last 5-6 games.
Well, over the course of the show, you may hear a number of reasons why SDFC might not be out of this match against the Black and Gold coming up on Saturday evening at Snapdragon Stadium, including the fact that LAFC very much doesn't want to be there, that they have a bigger fish to fry, and that is the one that speared San Diego FC or gobbled them up at altitude. I'm really mixing up metaphors. Why are fish at 8,300 feet? Regardless, Toluca. Toluca is the team that SDFC is playing in the semifinals of the tournament that the Azul and Chrome were knocked out in the round of 16 by Toluca. Now they're on to the round of 4, and Toluca is playing LAFC. And in fact, LAFC beat Toluca on Wednesday night up in Los Angeles. But Wednesday is the return fight, and we know what that can be like. So LAFC has their game of the year coming up on Wednesday, and they have us in between. Very interesting. We'll get into that as we continue. But first, let's stay on our lads. And I thought it was interesting how each of you answered that opening prompt, because it seemed to me that Alex focused on the current situation and the opportunity for it to improve with injuries, return to health, time off coming up. Tony, you focused on the style, on the right to dream style, and the fact that that style isn't going to change. So I see right now 2 competing possible narratives in terms of, and they're complementary. They can be this, it could be yes and, it doesn't have to be either or, but 2 narratives building on what's going on. SDFC year 2, why so bad? What's going on? Simple answer number 1 is absences. You deleted a designated player from the team that you did not replace, regardless of who he is or the circumstance. Any team that took one of their best players, deleted them, and did not replace them, that would be an issue. And then the young defense, which hung in there last year, probably way higher over their heads than we thought they could, have had 2 things happen. They've fallen to earth, in the way that players can from one year to another. And there's been a wave of injuries through one position group that has consistently put the lowest rated defenders out there on the pitch for San Diego FC. So, before we even get to the style question, let's start there, Tony. How much can fans expect to see SDFC improve on this Saturday from a health standpoint, and then continuing up to the World Cup?
Well, I mean, the entire anchor of this team and the success is your all-star, one of your 3 all-stars last year, Yepes Verskov, number 6, your captain, the brain trust of the midfield, just and everywhere else that is impacted by the midfield. He's not going to be available. I've spoken to a couple sources, and he's not going to be available this weekend. Potentially, this again is still kind of being mitigated, and where he's at with his own recovery. This could potentially put him out for the next 5 weeks, leading up, and we won't see him until after the World Cup. And so, again, we've seen some injuries go the distance. We have also seen some injuries come back on a shorter timeline because of necessity, obviously. But I think that's just the biggest blow for San Diego FC moving forward. Whether you have Yepe you're not going to have him this weekend for sure. But moving on forward, if this isn't something that's addressed, then you're really asking that style, to go back and fall on the shoulders of people who aren't necessarily used to being that puppet master in the midfield. I can see some people coming and stepping in. Aníbal Godoy is very much going to be relied on. He is going to be relied on in the next couple of games for his physicality, for his leadership in that center mid position. You're probably going to have Alvarado, who's going to be flanking for some of that. You might honestly, depending on the recovery of Andrés Reyes and potentially of another center back with going the distance with 90 minutes, potentially you may see Manu Dua stepping up into that role. Because again, he is a natural center defensive mid. He has the foot skills to move forward. He has a good defensive prowess, as we've clearly seen. But again, I think Yepe is just one of those irreplaceable players that even at their worst, San Diego FC has still relied so heavily on him that stylistically, morally, just in every single regards, that's the player that you just did not want to lose. You look over at Honors Dreyer, he hasn't really been a factor. I could say maybe if he's taken out of some of these games, the results are the same, not necessarily scoreline, but it's still a loss, a skid where you're falling into. But I think it is an opportunity for some of these players to really step up and showcase themselves. And we've seen it with this team. We've seen it with this team bounce back from a rut, and they bounce back in a very positive way. But you're asking a lot from a lot of young players who are coming back from recovery, from injury. And, it's just going to be a tough road ahead. But I think the way that they respond against this LAFC team, which potentially is not going to be their A team, you're not necessarily going to see Son. You're not potentially going to see some of their other stars. We're probably going to see Bouanga, which is going to be a handful for sure.
Yeah, he's enough.
Yeah, that's plenty. And you're also going to have a couple of players that remember what it was like to play San Diego FC last year. San Diego FC doesn't have a good California record this year, unfortunately. And, it's one of these things where at least this weekend, short term, it's going to be tough for San Diego FC to regain that form that they gained last week, because according to Mikey, the last week's loss was a step forward. Now you lose Yepe. I think that's 3, 4, 5 steps back.
Interesting. Alex, do you see Dua as a real possibility at the 6, just given that he couldn't have been training there really at all, unless for maybe in the last couple of days?
I would have to think like maybe early on when he was, getting, when he first got drafted last year, probably. And then he got hurt and then they flipped him to be a center back. But he went from the videos I was watching, kind of leading up to that super draft. He looked pretty good playing in the midfield. So I got really excited when they picked him up, and it's like, oh man, you got the 6'4" midfielder that can move. I mean, we saw it last week too, right? From the center back position, he can dribble the ball forward, like, and he's got speed, and he can go back and defend. It looks like that's very natural to him. So maybe he could just slot in, and it'll just come back to him. But yeah, it's probably going to take some time to really get him there. And at the same time, oh man, it's you kind of want Reyes back before that type of move happens, because or else you're gonna
Yeah.
see
I don't think you
Oswald
can do it.
Sue. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
sue.
yeah.
But
It would have
I'm
to be
going to sue.
Reyes.
I'm going to sue
Yeah,
for my money back if I keep
yeah.
seeing Oswald
Well, what if it's Ian
out there.
Pilcher and he regains his
Oh yeah, I
form
forgot.
of last year, the end of last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you have him next to McVeigh,
Mm-hmm.
Bombino potentially back. Your right back situation is your right back situation. It's just the black hole of fitness. You pick one, right? Pick Verhoeven, pick Eisner, pick whoever you want there. But then that also leaves Pedro Soma, right? Are you going to go ahead and start Pedro Soma, or is he ready for that role? Because it's going to be a midfield of Pedro Soma, potentially, Anibal, and Valakari.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so not a great report on World One. World One seeming to be pretty straightforward.
Yes.
SDFC is hurt. Yepe is probably the biggest injury yet. Again, in franchise history, seeing as we're 1 1/3 seasons into the history of the franchise. And the wave of defensive injuries hasn't completely abated. You have options now like Pilcher or Sargent that you didn't have, a week or two ago when it was Sue and nobody. It was playing Bryce Duke at left back. But losing Yepe means that once again, the idea of the ball getting from the back through the middle to the front at an effective pace that's going to allow guys like Pellegrino and Gvortsen and Dreyer to succeed, it becomes a lot less likely when the guy who is looking for that through ball, that orchestrating pass, is in fact somebody that's new to the position in terms of running this group at this level in this big of a game. So that brings me to the second world, which is how much has SDFC promoted a system that, yes, it's attractive, it's flowing, it's offensive minded, but I heard on our training ground sound just a couple weeks ago, Luca Bombino saying we invite this, that other teams are adjusting to our system because it's our chance to make the next adjustment, because we've got basically an infinitely adjustable system. So whatever you do, we can create a countermeasure and we can beat you at it. Well, those are great words, but where's the action of that? Because specifically, I think we could all agree that at least 2, 3, 4, we could even probably say more times over this 5-match losing streak, there has been a moment or multiple moments in a match where the system betrayed them, where the passes were easily read, where the other team's countermeasures were clearly effective. We've talked about it on so many weeks in postgame shows, not trying to ambush the first pass anymore, laying back just a little bit to look for the 5th or 6th pass before the ball gets out of the defenders and up to the midfielders or on the midfielder's first touch. Like right there at that point of initiation, jumping in and getting the steal and turning it into a sudden change the other way. All of these things seem to keep happening. And if we see the same lineup out there on Saturday, and we see Duran and net, and we see basically the same 11 that you're expecting, and they play it the same way, why wouldn't LAFC have a ready-made game plan, that they've got cooked up to beat SDFC this year? The only reason would be that they haven't had any time to prepare because their minds are 1,000% on Toluca. Like short of that, It feels like, and this is where I bring World 2. World 1 is just we're hurt. Bad luck injuries, bad timing, wave, one position group out. That's why the results are bad. Plus, you deleted your DP. You didn't replace it. I guess that exists in both worlds. But
Yes.
Yeah.
World 2 is we overpromised our system in a way. You know, we sold this as a world-beating system that nobody can touch. And as it turned out, it took 40 matches. But after 40 matches of seeing SDFC in action, MLS has figured out a way to counter the Azul and Chrome.
And this is kind of why I chose my words wisely when answering the first question. The results haven't been there when it comes to wins and losses and draws, but the system is producing exactly the same output it should be. It's very efficient, which makes it very boring. I understand. People will see that, you know, the actual goals are almost exactly like the expected goals, which they're going for the shot that they can make, then they're trying to like produce the shot that is like 1 in a million, you know, shooting a ball from outside the box that only Dryer could probably make, and they're not attempting those. So like I did some stretch work for Chromatic FC, and in the first 10 matches of last year, it was 16 goals, 17 XG. In the last 10 matches of last year, 17 goals, 16 XG. This year, 17 goals, 16 XG. So it's producing exactly how it should, like it's working the way it should be. And the only issue is the defense hasn't, you know, been stellar. Like that's the only difference, because the actual goals from the 10 matches in 2025 were 15, and then they really took their defense to another level in the last 10 matches of last year. They only allowed 9, and this time they allowed exactly 17. So you have a 0 goal differential there. But it's weird that we could say like, hey, Dryer's not producing as much. He's actually producing more. He's out there actually outproducing what he did in the last year's first 10 matches. And now you have Invarts in there, and he's actually outproducing Lozano. And then Valakari has been very consistent. So like the system is working exactly the way it is. It's just so predictable, and it's so boring. That's the problem with the system. Like now I'm seeing why. Like I remember last year when we were talking about Milan Elaski and being like all hyped up and being like, hey, I can't wait to see this guy a lot more. And then Tony kind of burned down that bridge, and he's like, no, he doesn't fit the system. And then you kind of see it when you look at the summer of Elaski, and he's out there out producing, right? He's flourishing. He's scoring all these great goals, but then it's like you're not playing the system the way we want you to, and all of a sudden those XG numbers, those scoring numbers go straight down. and it makes me wonder. It does make me wonder, like the question I would have Mikey or even Tyler Heaps, is there a way for some personality, like individuality out of a player that will allow some flexibility in the system? And like right now, excommunicating some really good players, it kind of sounds like it that's not it, you know, when it comes to the offensive side. So
yeah, that's Tony. I mean, yeah, I want to let's build off this. So the idea that if you are a creative, that's not the type of creator that SDFC wants to employ.
Yeah, it's almost like getting feedback when everything is done perfect and that person still wants to give you feedback. And it's like, dude, like, you know, there's a good MasterChef Mexico episode where the guy presents his dish and the judge is eating it, and he tells the chef, the contestant, he's like, you know, had you left this chicken in 30 seconds longer, it would have dried out. And then the guy's like, well, no shit, that's why I didn't leave it 30 seconds in there, 30 seconds longer, because, you know, there's no need for that feedback. In this way, and still same thinking style, if anybody thinks outside the box, it has to be done their specific way. It has to be done with a tag, TM, almost like, the branding aspect. I can't put a single video up of a media availability without putting SanDiego.Futbol on, because you need that branding on there. You can't score a goal if it's not a Right to Dream brand. It has to be in a specific way. However, they're telling you who their creatives are, but they're not producing. You have Amal Pellegrino. He's not a creative. He's a system player. He's in football, Alex Smith, that person who's just a cog in the wheel, who got hot and got into some good spaces, but he fits the system more. Those creatives that are Right to Dream based are Alex Maiton, because he knows how to play in the system, but he just kind of goes in his own way and doesn't create anything, runs into forests of legs and loses the ball half the time, doesn't come back and press. He's your creator with the Right to Dream background. Oh, excuse me, 3. Emma Boateng, great. Mm-hmm. Third one, Brian Zamblé. And he's your creator within those between those rules and sets of paradigms that you have to exist of Right to Dream. And he's just too young to be able to be that creative. He's just on a basic level fitting the system. But in a game where it's open 4-0 and you find yourself on just riding the lightning, of course you're gonna have a chance, and you're gonna give it to the kid, and he does a good individual play and he scores and makes a 5-0 against Montreal. Like, yeah, 100%. That game was made for that player. But outside of that, there's no system. That's why they like Dreyer so much, because a Dreyer has to play down and adapt to it. And I've talked about this. There's moments where Dreyer's trying to level up and bring up the level, but there's nobody next to him that can match him. Invarsson is still playing that, just that block mentality of Right to Dream. This is where I need to be. This is where I need to create. Everybody else is trying to learn the system. Valakari, oh man, I know I should shoot here, but no, here's the pass, and passes it to nobody, or just thinks it a little bit too much and loses the ball. In the midfield, Yeppe is doing 5 jobs at a time. He can't keep up. He can't help level up with Yeppe. And now you're talking about the defenders having to level up, which is why last year was like, wow, this team is flying. You have the defenders creating, McVeigh going all the way down, Dua defending, but also creating. Like, your creative aspects have to come from everywhere and the system. But to have that one person that's the rebel that comes out and does things his own way, no, that's not a holistic fit. Chucky's not a holistic fit. Iloski's not a holistic fit. De La Torre just wasn't a fit.
No, he wasn't a fit at all.
Right. So yeah, I mean that's the Right to Dream style that we've been sold as well. They haven't diverted from that message either. They've been telling all the fans, this is how we do things. This is how we're going to do them. And they found success. But now that you're not finding success, that's when just the impatience starts building. And yes, it is a boring style. It's out of the pack. All common cards. There is not a single holographic card in this team right now. Dreyer is, was a holo, but now he's a rare. But that's 2026 right now.
You want to know how boring the system is? You want to take a guess how many? If I tell you, FC Northland has scored 46 goals. Do you want to take a guess what their XG is?
47.
It's 45.7.
Oh, hey,
yeah.
What place we're in, or just currently? Just what are we doing? What was
third?
It? Okay.
They have 46. They have 45 points.
Okay.
And the top 2 teams have 58 tied.
Okay,
right.
so they're a comfortable third.
And guess what?
Like Mikey's third place for the year finish. Comfortable third.
Comfortable third in a league that has Group A, Group B, and only 12 teams and 6
relegation zones. Yeah.
Wow. Finish in the top half or drop.
Yeah, I think right. That's how it works.
Yeah,
that's how I was looking at it too. And
it's like our hot tub league. It's hard life.
Some of these teams don't even have logos. FC Northland doesn't have a logo.
Well, that could just be Google's fault. Like,
and just in real quick, just given that the team is right now like 0 with their goal differential, like 0 or like 17 given up, 17 scored. They're kind of predicted to be at 43 points for the conference, and potentially playing in the play-in
Play-in
playoff game.
And there it
Yep.
is. There
Yep.
it is.
Yeah,
The thing
I think
we
that's
warned about in the preseason, saying even if it was the same team, just random shit could happen, and they could wind up down 7, 8,
Yeah.
9 in the standings, and that's just a normal MLS soccer season. But it
Mhm.
creates a panic amidst both fans and supporters and followers of the club, because the team has lost 5 in a row and they are 100% favored to lose on Saturday, whether they will or not. That's soccer. Soccer is second stupid. So something weird could happen. And no one should be that surprised if it did. But nonetheless, I keep seeing it. Mikey's got to go. Mikey out. Heaps big mistakes. Why haven't they made a change? They got to make a change. And I'm not saying any way how to fan. If you think that Varus and Heaps are the wrong choice for SDFC, you can 100% feel that way, and you might be proven right. Who knows? Winning a championship's hard. So if you set the bar that high, you can usually set up a lot of people to be described as failures in life. Not the Soccers, but lots of teams. You could set that up. So I think it just bears re-illustrating that everything you just heard Tony say about the system, Heaps and Varus are the proselytizers of the system. If you brought in Chirundolo to run SDFC next week because you wanted to make a change, and you wanted to get a jump start, homie would be coming home with binders trying to figure out the system and what he has supposed to say and everything in between. It'd be almost impossible to even make a quick change and expect anything but horrible mediocrity the rest of the year. Like, if they ever made a quick change, you should just expect that season to be the worst season. Kind of like when the Wave, turned to Landon in the middle of the season. It was like, yeah, okay, everything's going to go to hell now, as it turns out. And it did, So, likewise, Heaps. Like, these guys got contract extensions. They didn't get contract extensions so they get fired after the first 5-game losing streak. They got those literally so that they wouldn't be fired after the first 5-game losing streak, and they would have the security to continue through a whole bad year or multiple years. St. Louis City FC exists, and every guy that works at SDFC that had leverage knew that when they walked into the offices to say, let's make sure we lock this up long term.
Mm-hmm.
So is this like a Shark Tank episode that, Mikey and Tyler came up to ownership and just said, look, proof of concept, year 1. Now you have to invest in everything that we have, and we have the direction. It's going to take some time for a return, but proof of concept, year 1. And now you're just kind of in those growing pains and growing stages of actually building the app that you promised you're going to do, actually making, the scrub daddy of Right to Dream style. And, it's going to work. It works. It cleans, but you just gotta, have the right ingredients in there, the right distribution, the right everything.
Well, you also have to scale up, right? It's one thing to pitch something in the room. It's another thing to actually have the global pipeline that is promised. This is supposed to get to a point 10 years from now where the pipeline is a fire hose, because Singing Hills is delivering elite talent. Northland can deliver elite talent. Egypt can deliver. Ghana, we can go 2 more academies that open, in the next 10 years. And all of a sudden, you've got this system on the field, system through the world feeding club. Your club's at the top of the system's pyramid, and you just operate it. It runs itself almost. You just have to keep the thing flowing. That's what they've promised down the road. But what happened after year 1 is we started to get the promise that this team absolutely knew what it was doing, that it recognized its spot in the elite as being appropriate. The coach himself described it as a giant, that he believed this club was a giant in North America. And all of a sudden, something that I think has been true the whole time is clashing with that narrative and worldview, because these guys who have multi-year extensions have every reason to develop the young talent they have with the security of knowing that if it doesn't go well this year, there's always next year, and they've locked in the pieces that they want going forward. And for everyone who wants the quick fix, Vara's out, Chucky in, whatever, like, that's so counter to the organization's philosophy and execution. It becomes a thing where it's almost like if you can't recognize that, you're gonna have a hard time as being a fan of this club, because it's that clash is going to be a narrative break for you.
Yeah, I think I misspoke on Saturday when I said that that SDFC doesn't really care about people in the seats. Well, yeah, and Tony did correct me. Yeah, they do get 100% of those revenues, but they're acting like the complete opposite of every other MLS team that would be doing, be in their shoes, because they would want the big marketing player. They would want people in the stands, and they would want everything that comes with the big money player. And it's almost like it's confusing us. It's confusing everybody, right? It's not the way you're supposed to be running a business like this. And it's racking our minds, like so what is going to be the payoff for this team? Is it going to be 5 years down the road when they have more players to sell? Is it going to be, when are we going to see a better competing team, when we're out there trying to compete for trophies and Champions Cup and everything? Like, it's hard to see that right now with this group, and that's why, like, I'm gonna be patient. It's just year 2. We can see what they do in the summer transfer window, but I think with these stats, and I know Tyler Heaps is really big in the analytics. He knows that this is the ceiling, right? This is absolutely what it can be. It can produce 1.7 goals per game averaging, which is good. That's a good number. If you get that number closer to 2, that's even better. But if you bring in like a playmaker and a difference maker, then you're going to take it to a whole nother level, and that's going to be the Oloski zone, right? I think that's what we should call it, the Oloski zone, where you're going to be in the next 10 games, right? You're going to be up 25 goals, right? I had it written down. It was 25 points, 25 goals that they scored in 10 games. Like, that's insane. That
was the Oloski zone.
Yeah, I think we should call it that, the Oloski zone. And they had an XG of 19, so they outplayed their XG, and they know what it can be with all the pieces together. It's just up to Tyler Heaps to say, like, oh, let's get it there. Let's try to win a championship.
Going back to what we were talking about earlier about, hey, Alex sees it this way. I'm talking about the style of it too. The last couple of predictions that I've had is that they should at least be gaining points. And it's not to say that this team shouldn't be doing better now. They should be gathering points. Theoretically, they are those small mistakes away from getting at least 1 point from Portland, at least 1 point going down to Texas, losing 1-0. Like, these are marginal situations. Yeah, you don't get all 3 points. You don't get a single point, and it feels like, and you definitely feel it because of the way that it's going. But I also said that the style itself should yield draws at this point, even regardless of who's on the pitch, who's off the pitch. The style itself is still sound enough to be able to go ahead and compete and, put on some good performances. And those numbers that you're saying definitely reflect that, Alex. And we're talking about a team right now that's not in last place yet, And, if it turns around after the World Cup, then, it's going to be a genius move. And I've also alluded to this. Last year, they brought all the players together. Everybody was already in-house, essentially, aside from Pellegrino, Corey Baird, who they trusted for the majority of the season and got the results and got them on the trajectory for first place. Then they just went into battle with those accents of Pellegrino and Baird and got as far as they possibly could. This year, and you faced a team that did it the opposite in Vancouver, who honed their players. They were making that team. They were gathering their, again, common cards together, one rare here, one rare there. You're polishing up some gems, and then you add that piece of Thomas Mueller. And then that team just went on hyperdrive. But this year, if San Diego FC is going to go ahead and go with that model, Tyler Heaps is looking at it and saying, we did it this way. I'm still learning MLS. This club is still new. What if we do it this way? Let's go into the season with minimal changes. Here comes Morgan. Here comes, a returning Invarson, who was, a transfer within, I guess. But then we'll see what we have. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that accent. Then I'm going to add a Thomas Mueller type of player that fits the system, but is going to take it into the next level and then go into playoffs that way. That way, year 3, you find exactly where your midpoint is on that. Where are you going to land? Are you going to construct from the beginning of the season? Or did you kind of like that way of, hey, ramp it up for most of the season, halfway through, boom, here's a good transfer, and then he's going to go ahead and take us into the playoffs, and he's going to go ahead and hit his peak as others are recovering through a long season. This is definitely a possibility, but I mean, we're also in a system where it's not looking pretty for right now, and you're just going to have to, like in Spanish, morderte un huevo, and just go forward.
Let's go forward ourselves. Great discussion. I think some really interesting, avenues of discussion of what's going on beyond just rattling cages and hoisting pitchforks, and saying out everybody and the rest. I mean, we're never gonna be that show, probably. If we are, they're gonna have to get us really mad. So let's go to Training Ground Sound. Let's hear what's going on. We've got a couple of the players, but we've also, of course, got Mikey Vargas, who probably feels even more in a corner than he actually is, because he seems like someone who's pretty aware of the chatter that's going on about him. Let's hear what he had to say today.
You guys are a close-knit group. How does that help navigate a stretch like this?
Oh, it's massive, because the most important thing is to stick together, to have convictions for who you are, who you want to be able to be honest with each other in terms of reflections.
After Portland, despite the result, you said you saw progress. What specifically did you see, and has it carried over to this week?
Yeah, I felt like we played with more rhythm. I felt like we were stronger in duels. We controlled the game. So we've had a lot of possession in the season, but I felt like that possession was a bit more vertical. We were getting much more closer to making dangerous situations, and we didn't give up a lot, especially early on. The game did get a little bit out of control, which is something we need to improve. But overall, it was still a step in the right direction.
How do you, during a stretch like this, how do you protect the team's confidence versus demanding more from them?
I think this is what our culture is supposed to be built for. You're supposed to have resiliency based on your values, based on the work that you've put in. We have a lot of hours of hard work in the bank right now. And the important thing is to say, when we give feedback, it's to help us be better. At the same time, we got everybody's backs here, as long as they're good people, as long as they have an open mind, and as long as they compete like beasts.
I know rivalries can take years to build, but do you feel something building due to the proximity and the fans with LAFC?
Yeah, the rivalry is real, and I think if you just think about the games and everything that happened surrounding the games with both LA teams last year, there's no doubt.
There's obviously an argument to be made that really good team, rivals, not who you want to face when we're in a cold streak. Can the opposite be true? Like, is that exactly maybe what your team needs?
It's a tremendous opportunity for us to take the next step and get back on track.
You have to identify what's led to this winless streak. Feels like one night the offense isn't there, the next night it is the defense isn't there, or there's just a late game breakdown. Is there one thing you can point to, maybe overarching theme to what's led to some of the frustrations?
There's never one thing, but what I would say is there's a lot of circumstances that have led to it. You know, one, red card situations leading to non-continuity of lineups, injury situations, same idea. Playing a lot of minutes with 10 players, having a shorter preparation in the preseason to get some really basic things fully honed in. Dealing with the disappointment of playing 2 competitions and getting knocked out in a really tough competition. So many things can go into that. Also, the ability to maintain your level with rising expectations based on a season that was put forward last season. But ultimately, what I would say is that last year the team went for every single game. They really left their heart and soul on the field, and a lot of the games went our way. This season, the team is going after every single game. They're leaving their heart and soul, especially in these last matches, on the field every single time, and the results are not going our way. And it's a razor-thin business, and we're feeling the wrong side of the stick right now. But our main focus is to look at it from a details perspective and get back on track, because that's what we owe ourselves, we owe our families, and that's what we owe the fans.
Mikey, is there an advantage when a team plays Wednesday, Saturday, and you guys have had the week off?
Depends on how you look at it. Some people could say the opportunity for them is that they have a lot of rhythm right now and they have a deep squad, so they can manage that well. You could look at it that we've gotten the opportunity to train and to prepare the match. I think in the end, it all evens out in football. Everybody's dealing with something at this point in the season, and our main focus is on bringing a ton of energy, bringing a focus for the 90-plus minutes, making sure we're playing with intensity, and making sure that we have a strong connection on the field so that we give ourselves the best chance of winning the game.
You guys have done the same thing going MLS, CONCACAF, MLS, kind of what LAFC is doing right now. What is it that time period like for you all? What's the transition phase, and how does the team feel after a stretch like that?
Of so many games?
Sure.
I think for every team it's a little bit different because it depends on your roster size, what injuries you have, how much road travel, where you travel to. But I know the moment we went through was pretty heavy because we went to altitude twice. We had a short roster because we had some guys that were injured at the time, so we dealt with a red card and going away to Toluca. We dealt with 2 red cards going away to Toluca, and then so it does take a toll on teams, but everybody's situation and everybody's moment is a little bit different.
You know, some really interesting stuff there, and Mikey, I still will credit for being still and all more candid than most manager, head coach positions in major sports when put to the question by a trio of local television news guys who are out there with no Tony and Chiva there today. And within the really long answer that he had to Togerson, which was like, he explained it to me, just what's the thing? And he's like, actually, I'll give you like 11 things. And he gave the entire thing. But within that was something that we wondered about. And then he said it. So now I know it's true, which is that when they got not just beat, but beaten to pieces in Toluca and humbled, like everything shut down, the water shut off, couldn't get the ball out of their own third, childlike display in terms of just not their behavior or their effort. I don't mean that to be demeaning. I mean, like when you watch youth soccer, there's games that are just like, oh, uh-oh. And that was the Toluca match away to a large extent. And that was really the first time that this franchise really got punched in the face like that and really knocked down onto the canvas. Yeah, Vancouver came in and beat them, but that was the Western Conference Final at the end of an incredibly long, amazing first year. And just like Tony was just talking about, adding Mueller to the Whitecaps was creating this team that was destined to make a run. They were trying to keep their team in Vancouver, which they still are. So, I hope that works out. But there's no shame in that. And then the way they started this season, it seemed like they could do no wrong. And then they beat Toluca on 9 men at the end of the match. And then they go up there and they get destroyed. And he just admitted it. The combination of that and the expectations that surround a team that had been so good to all of a sudden go bad. Those are two things that have contributed to the current loss. He said it himself.
Yeah, and it's true. And the injuries have been there, the suspensions. Yeah, that's all true. This isn't a team that has been in full strength in a long time. It's going to be a good question for Tony. Hopefully we hear it later. Is Luca Bombino ready to come back? I did see that he was out at the beach yesterday, which was good. I think Mikey Barras gave a lot of these guys a day off yesterday, which was good. Just kind of clear your head. And but yeah, we haven't seen like a back line with Bombino, McVay, Dua in a long time. And now with Yepe out, you got to ask yourself, like, when was the last time you had like your best 11 out there? It probably hasn't been for a couple months.
Depends who you ask, right?
Yeah.
Some people would say the first half at Houston last year or the second half of Houston last year. Depends.
Right. Very fair. Very fair.
I do think we are seeing the growth of a head coach as well, Mikey Barras, a first time head coach that is growing into his role, into his position. And it's just interesting that you point that out, Craig, that he was talking about, just admitting that, we were seeing ghosts against Toluca and the expectation of the season. But post-match, Real Salt Lake, Chiva had asked him something to that extent of like, hey, like the expectations of last year, right? And he pretty much came, granted, I'm not sure how good those two's relationship are right now. It's pretty testy. But Mikey said, no, absolutely not. Like, you cannot be comparing what happened last year to this year. And if you are, you're going to be unhappy every time, paraphrasing. But now you can start to see also just like potentially his consideration and contemplation of, that has to factor in. Like it's not a non-factor, even if it's a little bit. And it's death by 1,000 paper cuts as it is. And it's a really interesting kind of perspective for Mikey to recognize where he's at. Some people, again, will hear that as, well, he's just making excuses. He's just making excuses. And when are we going to stop licking our wounds and be a proper club? Or the people who are like, that's right. I've been paying attention to every game in, game out. Like it's not Chicken Little. The sky isn't falling. It might be falling, but at least you know why. And there's reasons to it. There's context.
Right. Like, to me, honest to goodness, it's the defense. Why haven't they been as successful? Because they're giving up not only way more goals, but they're giving up goals in bad ways. They're giving up goals on simple giveaways in the defensive third and turnovers and goalie mistakes and stuff that you just hate to see. But why does that happen? It's because you've had the youngest possible defensive line over and over again, because you literally were forced to play Sue like 3 straight matches when he was completely overmatched and obviously a big part of the reason why they lost. And that's nothing, I'm sure he'll be a good player someday. Maybe he will, but he's not right now when they need him. And that's just part of the development of a player. And this is going to be a development franchise over the course of its history. This is going to be a development franchise more than it's going to be a Yankees, super franchise, Club America, superstar home, recruit the next big hero. Like they're telling you that they're not going to do the hero ball system, that they're building a system that'll be a machine that will crank out maybe very similarly coded, equally happy XG teams, 1 year after another. So, the system's malfunctioning a little bit, but if you buy into basically what they are giving you, then you just ride it out. And remember that there's no relegation in MLS. If they have a terrible season, they can reload and come back at it the next year and have just as much a chance of winning and going to the top as anyone else. And MLS long-term fans could tell you 60 stories, of clubs that made leaps. So leaps and falls. It's a chutes and ladders league, but not from league to league, just within the league. There's always this, variance, and this type of stuff happens.
Just call us the Rays of the MLS, Craig. It's fun. I think that's what we are.
We just might be the Rays of MLS.
Yeah.
We just might be the Rays of MLS.
We're not
Oh my God. There are so many Padres fans that just secretly that hate AJ Preller and secretly wish that they were Rays fans, because the Rays would have done it so different, and they never would have traded Mackenzie Gore, and they never would have traded James Wood, and they would have kept all their young talent. But sometimes you don't get what you want if you don't have the superstars.
Sometimes you don't get Juan Soto playing for your team.
That's right. You will definitely don't get Juan Soto unless he came through your right to swing system.
Yeah,
right to swing. Right to swing is great. At least Robin Panfield has a roof. Anyway, but I think what my question then is, yes, context is great, but for the two of you right now, where you stand, where is that panic zone? Where would that red button be for you this season to be like, okay, like, is it 6 losses in a row, 7 losses in because if you keep going in a row and you keep losing, at some point you're gonna have to go ahead and put on the alarm, but you're also understanding that's kind of where we're at, and you're gonna hear Mikey, well, we're going through that moment. But for you guys for the season, when would you be okay? No, this is not going to turn around. This is just red alarm.
I'll answer real quick.
Mm-hmm.
After the transfer window, I could see them lose out to the World Cup. I was looking at the schedule. None of it's forgiving. What's happening the rest of the month, those games are going to come by in quick order. And if Yeppe's out for all of them, and they don't have a way to plug Dua into the middle and make it work, or put Reyes into the back and bolster things, I think getting a couple 3 draws, maybe lucking into a win, would be pretty good. Really pretty good for San Diego FC. They could lose out, and it wouldn't be the end of the universe. It would be really bad. It'd be horrible, but it's not the end. If they make the right moves and they get healthy over the course of the World Cup break in the summer transfer window. But what are they going to do? And how do they feel about investing in a team that is losing all the time and maybe feeling like they're throwing bad money after good instead of trying to recalibrate? The sprint season is coming. You got to think about that, right? Any move you're making, you're thinking about the next 2 short windows: World Cup to MLS playoffs, sprint season to sprint season MLS Cup, and then we're resetting for the international schedule 3 seasons from now.
Yeah, so I think I'm gonna still be following this club regardless if they lose a lot of these games. But
yeah,
it's so for you, Craig, let's just say you're gonna hit the panic button when, after the transfer window, and then if you don't see any results in 2 or 3 matches after that, or
yeah, if they come out flat in the second half and they look like the same team, if they've recalibrated and gotten everybody back, then I'm going to be like, okay, this is probably a really bad year. What's going on? Things will have. I mean, just seeing where the fan base is right now,
Yeah.
the club is going to start panicking if they're playing in front of 14,000 fans at Snapdragon Stadium. You know, they're going to be panicking if they're having a hard time on a Wednesday, the way that the Wave have had a hard time on a Wednesday the last couple of years. You know, that will be where this ownership group will start to be concerned. But I still and all refer to the first half of the show. They're going to keep going. Like, they're not just going to go, you know, again, baseball, you know, bring in Don Mattingly and be like, here's the new man. You know, they're not going to rip and paste in Jurgen Klinsmann and go, okay, now we've got a new manager.
Jurgen Klopp coming in to save the season. Like, they're not going to do that.
No, nothing like that is ever going to happen.
Yeah.
Probably ever going to happen. I don't think that's the system here.
And I think that's, you know, kind of the problem and the issue is that's why fans are so upset. They got the bait and switch, and you're kind of telling them that there aren't going to be any superstars coming in. And yeah, if a big signing doesn't happen, or like any signing that can have some really major potential for the team, and then they don't turn around in the second half, yeah, you're gonna lose a ton of fans. Like that, it might be it. I mean, they're gonna going back to Tijuana Cholos games again, and just that's how you're kind of drawing the line there. And I think that's kind of where, you know, Tom Penn steps in, and he has to be like that vocal leader of, hey, you're making my numbers look bad. You're making all of this look bad. I can't have this. Like, what do we need to do to you know, really turn this thing around? Because you need to be a winner in like the first few seasons, or, you know, do something big that will keep the fan base alive and interested, or else, yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to grow this thing out and just be a feeder league for, you know, teams in Europe and everything. Like, people aren't. That's the thing about a lot of the, you know, why people follow MLS is just the big names that come through. There's nothing more than that, or else they'd be following the USL or following the smaller leagues that are out there.
As they should too.
Yeah, and they should. Yeah. I mean, I was following Nisa for a long time, and like, yeah, it's those are great leagues, but yeah, like the big names don't come through, and, you know, there's nothing that gathers interest, and, you know, to fill up a stadium or anything. So
Look, I'm going to say it plain and simple. I'm going to say it plain and simple. We're in MLS. This is the highest level league that exists in the United States of America. And I am happy to have a San Diego team in MLS. And I shudder to inform/remind everyone that we got an outlier great year of MLS soccer as our first ever exposure to San Diego FC. But if you actually watched 5 seasons of MLS, you'll see 5 different versions of clubs, even successful clubs in MLS. You know, I was, you know, I've talked about it, right? The first MLS game I went to was being in the supporters section of the 3252 for LAFC. I was really following LAFC year after year. And of course, they've had some incredible success, but they also had some, you know, hiccups and bumps along the way, and transitions and moves. But they've operated in a different style, which is always from Vela to now Sonny, changing, getting to high paid coaches. They're trying to do the superstar Lakers style.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know, very classic LA style, Lakers style, stars, glitz, glamour, excitement, goals. You know, that's their system, and they're a powerhouse club. That's who we're facing on Saturday. They're doing it. They're doing the damn thing. They've got a great club again this year, but there's unevenness even for a club like that. And if SDFC wants to be a club that can compete at the top level of MLS, they're going to have to be willing to pay for some DPs. They're going to have to be willing to find a way to have the system succeed with the player, and I guess have it be the exact right player. I mean, that could be the way to make the algorithm flow. So we'll find out who that is, hopefully. But it's not going to be the exact same thing. And so let's just kind of wrap by looking at these two teams coming up on Saturday. I think the most basic thing is that SDFC has a chance to catch LAFC napping, trying to prepare for Toluca, the way that SDFC went to Dallas in a, slightly less talented overall situation and came away with a tie that they shouldn't have had. They should have had a win in that game. LAFC has a lot of reasons other than Cali Cup revenge and rivalry to start a rotated lineup, bring in stars for the final 30 minutes of the game, do something like that. As compared to SDFC, which has every incentive to play as hard as they possibly can to get a point, which would be an incredible moment for the club this season right now. So, I'm still really, really excited, to be out there in the North End for this one in Las Buenas y Las Malas and see how this goes. And I do think you're going to at least see some sort of rotation from LAFC. And the reason I think that is because LAFC's head coach is having a moment talking about how MLS should, in fact, have suspended this match and moved it, because why doesn't MLS want their teams to win in CONCACAF? He went on a press conference yesterday and went hog wild about it.
The schedule is a scandal. I don't understand why MLS didn't find who's the guy in the office that says, yeah, this is a good idea to have them play in San Diego. They don't want us in the final. Like, MLS has to help MLS teams. And I see it in South America when Palmeiras, Flamengo arrive quarterfinals, semifinal, they get help. They change a game, they put another in the schedule. PSG, many of their games in France has been moved. We're playing for 10 weeks, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and sometimes the Saturday at 1 p.m., 3 p.m. Guys, who is the genius in the meeting that says, I have a good idea? I want to meet that guy.
MDS needs to slow down. He has not been playing for 10 straight weeks. There was an international break in the middle of this.
Great, Brad.
They have been playing for 8 straight games, since the start of April, So, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I just watched, Champions League, and I hated rival of mine, Arsenal, and they play on Saturday too. I mean, they play on Saturday too. They also have to deal with the same type of schedules and everything. Games can be moved, but it's a weird and it's a different year. You have a World Cup right in the middle. I mean, I guess you can postpone some of these till the second half of the World Cup, but after the break. But everyone's dealing with this. I mean, Liga MX, Toluca, they're playing this tournament right in the middle of a Liga semifinal, right, Tony? They also have to deal with this too.
Alex, I want to meet the genius. Point to me who the genius was that decided to move LAFC's game with RSL and give RSL a week off before facing San Diego at home.
I know. I know.
I mean, there we go, right? There's your same argument that essentially gave a
Right.
boot to another team that's facing the team that you're going to go up against. And
Mm.
you know what? Okay, lose. If you are putting
this
more
one's
stock
way.
in it, go lose Coca Champions. Go for it. Like, you don't have to win it. Oh, MLS should be thinking about their clubs. You should be thinking about your own club, bud. And it's part of being in a big club and it's part of being in those tournaments. Go play Open Cup. And even if you're an Open Cup, guess what? It's the same thing. This is just the way soccer's being played. Yeah, you're being stretched out for sure. Great. But that's the reality of the modern game. That's where we're at in 2026 with soccer. Like, it's just, it is what it is. Imagine telling a baseball player, man.
Jesus,
Like,
no.
showing a baseball player this rant. How
Yeah.
dare we? Different sport,
Oh,
very much obviously.
Saturday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, Saturday.
Saturday, Wednesday. Oh, you guys play twice a week? That's nice. We play every day.
Oh, you went 22
Yeah.
innings last night? Oh, okay. Well, here's a morning doubleheader.
I love this version of Tony. You're like that IKEA meme, the IKEA guy who works at IKEA meme, but we play on Saturday, Wednesday. So lose then.
Oh, yeah.
So lose then. No one needs to see you here. Just lose the game. Get the hell out of here. No one wants you in here anyway.
Hey, and to be honest, like I'm I've been hearing it from LAFC fans. They're also in the same boat. They're like, yeah, maybe we should lose. Put the LAFC 2 team on the field for Saturday. Where their focus is on the Champions Cup against Toluca next week.
It should
playing
be.
in Yeah,
It should
and
be. They should be overlooking us and rotating the lineup
Yeah.
all the way to try
That's a
and
tough
win
matchup.
up in the matchbox there on Wednesday. That's the game of the year for them, and it should be.
Mhm.
And vaya con Dios to LAFC. I hope they win to represent MLS. I'm not at the level yet of I hate all things there. I'm sure I'll get there. Like with the Dodgers. So,
Yeah.
Or any other LA. God, the Lakers were my team like my whole life, and even now I haven't watched one of their playoff games yet. So it's hard, but it's true. It's hard to root for any of them. But I would still against Toluca. Toluca kicked our butt. I mean, I'd rather see LAFC win.
I know right now they're in a trap. They feel good. They're like, oh man, we beat
Right.
Toluca. Guess what? We beat Toluca. SanDiego.FC beat Toluca too.
Yeah.
And
So you know what?
They felt good. For a
Why
minute.
don't you let MDS play to a really frustrating 1-1 tie on
Mm,
Saturday,
Yeah.
where SDFC gets a goal, early in the game, and plays the whole match almost up 1-0, and LAFC brings in their big guns and find a corner kick or something, in the last 10-15 minutes and pulls a draw out of the game. And it's going to be frustrating for us, but it'll be a point. Everyone gets something on the way out. They get a result, and they got some work, but we get the point that ends the losing streak, and gets the club back on at least some sort of footing, saying, oh, 2 weeks ago, we were doing crazy stuff. The week before, our goalkeeper was running around just racing out of the net like a Nintendo joystick got stuck. Like, no, I didn't mean you to go out there. Now here we are drawing against LAFC, indisputable proof that we're taking steps in the right direction.
Yeah. And this is going to be, their second best lineup that they're going to put out there. And you just got to hope for the best that you can compete with those guys. And we're probably not going to see Sonny. Versus Minnesota last week, they didn't bring him out there. They did play Bowanga, but Bowanga wasn't going to play against Toluca due to yellow card accumulation. And then, so we're going to see Ordaz up front, and then we'll see the rest. We'll see if David Martinez is a part of this. We'll see if Aaron Long or any of their regulars are going to be a part of this match, because it's very doubtful. It's very hard to kind of scout and say, like, how is this going to look? How it looked last week against Minnesota was David Martinez scored in the 9th minute, and then all they wanted to do was play defense, because Minnesota took all the shots in the world. They took 23 shots on LAFC and had a the majority of the possession. So it might turn into that where it's like, okay, if they score early, then they're like, okay, we're just gonna play defense and let you guys play with the ball because we have another more important match next week.
Does this seem like a guy that's gonna punt though?
Because at some point it's enough, you know. Like I've been keeping a lot inside, but Saturday we have to go to San Diego, and
Sorry, that was just.
I mean, he's taking it seriously. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, and he should, given the way that the series went last year. You know, and how he's in to now have things be different at LAFC. This has got to be one of the things that he was talking about. You know, taking the job. So, very interesting. Interesting match coming up, man. I'll tell you though, the thing I'm really looking at is, are they going to have another simple
Bruja?
breakdown? 15 minutes, 10th minute, 7th minute. Oops, 1-0. You know, like not like a beautiful goal, not a golazo, but just a bit boom boom. You know, because they've been doing that, and it's just so frustrating. And at some point, you've got to make a change in the back if that's going to keep happening over and over again. So instead, I mean, the world I put out there optimistically, some people would be like, F you, take a 1-0 lead and then lose it late and draw. Like, that's terrible. But like in that world, you took a 1-0 lead and you defended it for a goodly long time against a good club. And maybe they slipped at the end, you know, but I think LAFC's got the talent edge on SDFC with no Yepe Tverskov and the injuries that the club has and the developmental stage they are in their back right now. I think they've got the talent edge. I think that's pretty obvious, you know, if they played their full strength lineup.
Yeah.
But they're not going to. And circumstance dictates that their mind be a little bit somewhere else. Could this be a trap for them? And maybe you do squeak a win. Maybe it's 1-0 instead of 1-1, you know? But just to get that early goal and to not make the mistakes that have just bedeviled the team over the course of this losing streak. That's what I'm going to be watching for in between the waving of the flags and the pounding of the drums in the north end, squinting to try and get a look at the field, either up on the big screen or through all of the traffic that's in front of me. So that's my story. Guys, anything else before we wrap this one up and get ready for Saturday?
Just keep an eye out for Jude Terry, local product, Chula Vista kid, scored a banger of a goal for LAFC. He's probably going to play here. And, you know, I think, yeah, there is a chance for San Diego FC to get some points. And I think, again, a tie is moving positively for me. You know, these last results, you might have played better, but just the results, I do focus on results because that does boost the team morally, just anímicamente, just a little bit, just give them that little edge. But I think they're close to kind of finding their system. Yep is going to be a big question for sure, but I'm really curious to see who's going to be that player to step up. And then also just at the end, fans, I know it's LA. Just try to behave. Just be safe out there, guys.
Yeah.
Just be safe out there. Like that's the, like, have fun, have a great time, get just cranked up and whatever, but just be safe. Like that's my one message for everybody. Just make smart choices, be good people, and yeah, just that's about it. Like, cheer and do everything. Just let the players do the fighting on the field. Let the gladiators gladiate.
Yeah. No, absolutely. God, I didn't even, you know what? It wasn't part of what I was thinking about, but now I'm thinking about it. Yeah, absolutely. We don't have to do that. I get it, though. It's going to be there. The LAFC fans want to crow. You know, I mean, we beat them twice. Like, they're going to want to crow. They're going to want to tweet and chirp along the way. But the supporters are there for the good and the bad, and we definitely don't have to take it to that level for sure.
San Diego FC did not surge pricing for them, right?
From what I understand, what I've heard, no.
Hey, there you go. I think that's already a step in the right direction right there.
Yeah, you're right about that.
Yeah. I don't think that's going to be reciprocated when it comes to
No, I do
San
not.
Diego fans going down there. Nope.
No, I do not. I think San Diego fans will pay the highest price possible to go down to the BMO. All right, let's wrap this one up. Will you have every intent to be there for you on Saturday night? And look to draw with another post-match live edition of Chromaniacs. And you're going to the match, Alex. Tony will be there. I'll be there in the supporters section. Soccer season's over. All the conflicts I've had between Soccers and SDFC done. All right. Going on, Tony. What would you like to promote?
Well, we have the house where you're watching this on SanDiego.Futbol, the house, La Casa del Fútbol in San Diego. Go ahead and check out 2 Balls and a Mic that we'll have on Monday coming up, but also the post-match, as you're mentioning, SanDiego.Futbol. Thank you for everybody who shared, liked, subscribed, all the good things. We really appreciate it. If you're following on Instagram for the Chromaniacs, go ahead and do the follow everything that we do on this platform, and just support local soccer and support people that are creating the local soccer content here locally. We don't need to fly in LA, what are they called? Influencers. We have our very own here.
Yeah.
100%. Alex.
Yeah, and
like
for me,
Alex.
I'm out there taking pictures and posting them. For me, chromaticfc.com. Just subscribe if you want the newsletter that's going to have this episode and maybe some other analysis and a preview for LAFC, and also a recap on Monday or Tuesdays. All depends on if they win or not. That's usually how it gets determined. How about
That's
you,
fair.
Greg? Yeah.
Enthusiasm Matrix is very much engaged when it comes to that output. Well, everything rolling merrily along. Soccer's Overtime put to bed with Tony and myself on Wednesday evening, cleaning up the confetti after a championship. You can go back and check out that coverage, or even go to YouTube to see the replay of the finals broadcasts. They are all there now that were on CBS Sports. Now they are on YouTube, so you can check those out if you didn't get the chance to see them. And I would invite you to do that and to listen to the supporters backing everything up right there, helping take that club across the finish line. Meanwhile, baseball continues apace. Chicago came in and won. Now here comes Chicago. We went from National League to American League this week. Padres Hot Tub covers it all with myself, Chris Reed, and Rafi Cantor, with weekly episodes that you can find right here on YouTube, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. PadresHotTub.com will give you the links to everything you need, including the chance to join our Patreon, which is where, for the current price of $5 a month, you can come in and get 22 episodes a month, in addition to everything else. So we're really delivering the most bang for your buck, I think, on Patreon right now. So go check it out, patreon.com/Padres Hot Tub, if you're a Padres fan. If not, just stick with us for soccer. We'll see you next time. For Tony Sanchez and Alex Pena, I'm Craig Elston. Vamos, SDFC.